All right, here's a follow up to my video. Once again, understand I never watched F1 until this season. And the only reason I kept watching was because of the battle between Lewis and Max. I was not rooting for one over the other. I'm not a fan of anyone per se in F1. I was intrigued by the battle. So, both were even on points. One race to go. Whoever finishes ahead of each other wins the world title. Straightforward, simple. Then the race happens. Lewis is up by over 11 seconds. And then a crash happens. Then Max gets to go even with Lewis, and then he wins the last lap. How in anyone's mind can that be justified? That is the most foolish, idiotic, stupid thing in the history of sports that could be allowed. And if you don't believe that, if you don't agree with that, you're just a blind Max Verstappen fan, and I can't say anything to reach you. But let's take a look at the facts, shall we? Section 48.12. Unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car is still necessary, once the last lap car has passed, the leader, the safety car, will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. All right. Okay. However, not all of the lap cars were allowed to unlap themselves. Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, Mick Schumacher being told they weren't allowed to follow the other five in overtaking the safety car. Interesting. Interesting. So, only five cars were allowed to unlap themselves. The five cars that happened to be in front of Max Verstappen. Interesting. Am I lying? Am I not telling facts? Did I just not read the rule to you that is a fact? Did I just not read to you that the only five people to be allowed to unlap were the ones that were in front of Max? I have spoken facts, not opinions, facts. So Ricardo, he thought that was weird, didn't understand it. I'm sure none of them did because under the rule, every car should have been able to unlap as the rule states, but only the cars in front of Max were allowed to do so. Let's read some of these. So what? No one is going to change the result retrospectively, as that will be a mistake by the race director and how he restarted the race, not Red Bull. I don't think Massey will be so relaxed on it. Fairly big one up his part today, entirely his doing. Can't just change the rules to produce an entertaining finish. I don't care what kind of Max Verstappen fanboy you are. You have to admit Michael Massey did what he did for entertainment purposes only. You have to admit that. You have to admit that Michael Massey orchestrated the greatest theft in F1 history. You have to admit. Let's read this. F1. From what I gather, the FIA rules were not followed, but the race director has discretion in the rulings. If so, you can never have totally consistency, and sometimes you benefit and sometimes not. What should not be part of any official's decision is to create entertainment. This was a Netflix decision. Controversy leads to the greatest amount of traffic in social media for a fact. This was the greatest controversy in recent F1 history. What could be more controversial than a stolen F1 World Championship. Seriously, nothing. Not in the world of F1. So now let's read this last Twitter. I think the FIA made the right call in race time because I'm a stupid idiot. Nobody wanted to see the final end with the drivers following the safety car. I wanted to see the race end with Lewis having his 11-second lead that he earned. What we got was far more exciting. What a idiot. Whoever, Matt Lawton, I don't know who you are, but you're an idiot. It was contrived. Would you want the officials to interject in the 89th minute of the Cup Finals and say it's no longer 2-0, it's actually 1-1? Now let's have a grandstand finish? I used American sports to try to explain to you how ridiculous and insane this was, but once again, go with the soccer one. Let me set it up for you. For the Max Verstappen fans out there, we're in the World Cup. The Dutch is beating England 2-0. It's the 89th minute. The referee stopped the game. This is not exciting. For the last minute, we need it to be 1-1 so you have a legit chance of winning this match. That would be far more exciting. Let me ask you something. What do you think the Dutch would do with that? Do you think they would accept it? Do you think they would be cool with it? Of course not. They would be furious, as they should. Flip the script. If the Dutch were up 2-0 and 89th minute, with extra time included, of course, and they say, hey, it's 1-1, go for it. Let's make it an exciting finish. How do you think England would feel? Same thing as the Dutch, furious. They wouldn't accept it. And that's exactly like the situation that happened Sunday. Once again, if it was Max Verstappen up by 11 seconds on Lewis and this happened and they allowed Lewis to win, I would have made the same exact video. It would have been Lewis Hamilton's picture. It would have said stolen F1 title. And let me tell you, let me say this real quick. There are people that will say, overall, now this makes no sense to me. They'll say overall, Max had a better season, so he deserved the world championship. Okay, I'm an American, so help me understand something, because Europeans must think differently than Americans. So if Max had such a better year than Lewis, how is it that they both had the same amount of points at the end of the year? That doesn't make sense. If Max had such a tremendous season, a way better season than Lewis, how in the world were they tied on points at the last race? It makes no sense. It seems to me, overall, using my common sense, that they both had the same season because they both had the same amount of points. But common sense be damned. Clearly, the safety car should have not, excuse me, should have not returned to the pits when it did, given there were three cars still left who had not unlapped themselves. And while rules are in discretion of the race director, it's difficult to see how he hasn't. It's it's difficult to see how he hasn't made a huge error of judgment here. So there you go. Did Massey decide to put drama over rules, actual rules? Was there pressure from above to ensure the most dramatic of seasons still had one more twist and turn? Exactly. I am I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt. This was a Netflix move. It was a ratings move. It was the wrong decision. Michael Massey should be fired. Lewis should be crowned world champion. And next year, Max and Lewis should battle again. This is a conspiracy. And the question is, will they get away with it? I don't care how big of a Max Verstappen fan you are. You have to admit that this was a Netflix move, a ratings move, and there's no denying it. The facts have been presented. How can you deny the facts? Is this what F1 is all about? Creating drama over doing the right thing? Apparently it is. But what more can I say? Nothing else. So next year, F1 will come around again. And I may watch it, I may not. We'll see. But it was an entertaining season. My first season watching F1. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. But all that was ruined when Michael Massey decided to steal the world title from a man who earned it by being up by over 11 seconds. That's the one thing that really gets me is these people come to my comments, the Max Verstappen fans, and they never mention how Lewis was up by over 11 seconds. How can you not admit that Lewis was dominating the race? I don't understand. And once again, I don't care if the roles were reversed. I would say the same thing. But anyway, Michael Massey, F1, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, that they won't do for ratings, for exposure. Congratulations. Nothing brings more eyes than a stolen title. And that's exactly what it is. Period.